views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to journalists, photographers, videographers, and reporters and other people involved in news and making news and inside the news. And this evening we have two great guests, totally different kinds of guests, totally different kinds of segments. And so for the first segment, it is my longtime friend and your friend too, because he's been a news photographer in the Bronx for so many years. Adi Talwar, nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me, sir.
And actually, I just laid the groundwork for the first question. So how many years have you been taking photographs in the Bronx?
About 9 years.
9 years. Now you, I'm going to tell the audience, I've seen Adi on the job. We've been together at all kinds of places. Everybody's standing there, the photographers are there taking pictures. And you find Adi is like up in the balcony with holding the camera out on the end of it, right? You like to do more with a news story than just taking, like everybody else taking a photograph.
Yes, once the safe shot is done, then I try and explore for other options. Because if I'm going to go back to the editor with photographs like everyone else,
What's
then,
the point?
What's the point? Yes, exactly.
Well, listen, I'm going to tell you, and I know him for all those 9 years. You can't sit still. I know you can't. And so here's what it is. You and I had a dialogue because you take so many different types of pictures. You have your own studio shots. You do all kinds of things. And we debated what to do. But you explain why you decided on this kind of chronicle of the Bronx flotilla.
It's one of my favorite events. And about 9 years ago, I had, when I had first sort of started out in photojournalism, it was one of the events that I had covered. And last year, I got to cover it again. And I just wanted to bring that set of photographs to your viewers because, one, only a single photograph got published because this was done for the Norwood News,
Right.
and there was only space for one. And the Bronx River Flotilla is coming up
Right.
in May.
So we're going to do a little promotional work for them.
Yes,
And on the other hand, I saw many of the pictures. People are going to love them. I mean, they're just beautiful pictures. But in terms of the events, now you shoot news, you'll shoot hard news, which may not be as much fun as you because you can't do this with the balcony. But what was interesting and enticing about, I guess it was last year's flotilla?
Yes, this is last
what,
year's
what made it visually captivating for you? That inspired you to not only take them but be here.
So if one is going out to just make one photograph, you can decide on a location and you can do it at the start or in the middle or at the end. I wanted to go through the whole process, as in go down on a boat.
And you did go on a boat?
Yes, I did go on a boat. And the former director, Linda Cox, and her husband had me in their canoe. And I was sitting in the middle. I didn't do any work, feeling guilty. And I kept saying, look, I feel guilty about this.
I told you, he can't sit still. I was right. He can't sit still.
And I got to photograph the whole flotilla. And it's a tough thing to do because...
Really, why is that? I would think, as an amateur, that everywhere you look, it's beautiful.
It is.
Right,
But to convert that into a photograph, because what we see,
right.
And when you pick up the camera and you photograph, and it's fleeting when you're going down the river.
Right.
It's not
moving.
It's moving.
Wow.
So, and then you're low on the water.
Did you just have one camera and you just like quick shots, or like what equipment did you
Yeah,
use?
just one camera. That's it.
All right. So this was last May, and we're gonna, before the end of the show, we'll tell you when this year's flotilla is coming up. So let's go, Magic Crew. What do we got? Let's look at Adi Talwar's photos. So what is this? This looks like the first photo of the flotilla.
Yes, this is at Shoelace Park. This is just by I would say south of 233rd Street. And so this is where the flotilla starts. They put the boats in the water here. That's the commissioner for the parks department giving a speech right at the start.
And about how many people were in boats? I guess people had life jackets and all that kind of
Yes,
thing.
yes. All the safety measures are there. And then at places where there are rapids and things, there are people with boats or people in waders in there.
I know this is not your thing. Do people register ahead of time, I assume? Or
Yes,
that kind of thing?
yes.
Okay. So this was just getting started.
This is just getting started. This is just before everybody headed towards the river.
Do you know how many boats there were?
No,
All
yes,
right.
I should know this.
No,
but
no, you shouldn't. You're the photographer. All right, let her rip. Let her rip. Is that a boating term? Let her rip. All right, what do we got? Another one. Let's show another.
So this is where the boats are launched. So they were kind enough, the Bronx River Alliance, to give me waders. So I went into the river and shot photographs while wading in the river. In the past, I've actually done it without the waders.
So you were standing in the river at
Yes.
the time?
Yeah.
Was it cold?
Yes, it was.
It was. And did you have your shoes or your boots on? Or you took your shoes off?
I think the shoes come off, and then that's how you get into those waders. That's what it is.
Because I was going to ask you about getting height, because this is obviously shot
Yes,
from above.
so I have people who've seen me shoot would know that I normally carry a monopod, and I will put up the camera on a monopod
Right.
to get extra height if I need it.
All right, let's see another. Let her rip. I got to stop saying that.
So this is just, so the light was great here. And this is just where the river goes under the Moshulu Parkway.
Oh, really? That's right. See, it's amazing. It's just so amazing because you see the borough of the Bronx
A different point of view.
From a different point of view. Also, of course, many people know that the Bronx was named for the river. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
And that's why it's called the Bronx, because it was the Bronx River. And a lot of people say, well, it was Jonas Bronx. Yes, and it was. It wasn't like we're going to visit them on Sunday afternoon, so we're going to visit the Bronx. It was really because the borough, let's call the borough after the river, so they called it the Bronx River, and then took the word river. Well, there you go. History lesson number one. The one thing I want to say is the woman in the boat on the right, the second woman, she has a photograph of you taking a photograph.
No, that's a gentleman with the tattoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
He's a
that's the
gentleman. Well, okay, so I don't want to. Nonetheless, that guy has a photo
Yes, he
of
does.
you taking a photo.
Yes.
But really, the lighting is just spectacular.
Thank you.
It
Yeah,
was
no,
a
this is
May day. It must have people in shorts. Must have been a
Yes,
lovely day.
yeah, no, it was a beautiful day, and the light. You know, this is you can't make this up.
Yeah. When I think of Marshall Parkway, that's not what I think of. All right, let's go. More.
Actually, is it Moshulu Parkway or is it Bronx River? Bronx.
Like Allerton Avenue or something.
No, the Bronx River Parkway.
Oh, Bronx River
Bronx
Parkway.
River Parkway, not
All right.
Moshulu. My mistake.
Okay, so now you're shooting at the same level. You're in your
Yes.
boat.
Yeah.
Did you touch this up afterwards? Because it's just so green.
So yes, I do a little bit of dodging and burning. So whatever one could have been able to do in the
How
dark
could you
room.
not love Addie Talwar? I'm sorry. Go ahead, say it again.
So it's a sort of whatever one was able to do in a dark room is that you brighten some things and you darken some things. Nothing else. All these stuff that you see here is done with the ethics of photojournalism. So no pixels are moved about.
And what I just love, and we do stereotype breaking all the time. Oh, this is the Bronx? I mean, really, this is what it is.
And it was the light coming through the trees that the
Oh,
water
my
was just lit.
And as a photograph, spectacular. Go ahead, next. How many pictures did you take that day? I mean, we're going to show about 10 of them.
I would have 800, 700,
Wow.
900, somewhere in that range. Yes, yes.
So here's a guy who loves the fact that he doesn't have to change film every 24
Yes,
shots.
exactly.
Okay.
So, and the Bronx River has rapids. So, this is the Bronx Botanical Garden.
Okay.
And then you've got to walk through and then get back into the river. So this is
Really?
one of the walkways in.
Wow.
The,
So in other words, you hit some point and then everybody's got to go and
yeah.
schlep
And,
the
and
boats.
there are a lot of volunteers that help take the boats out, carry the
Wow.
boats, put them back in the water, hold the boats.
Just
So, yeah.
wonderful. All right, keep going. I mean, they tell me 2 more minutes. I don't know how many more pictures. We never have enough of Adi Talwar's pictures.
This is where, again, it's one of the places where the boat had been put back into the water. There's a volunteer helping people get in, and then.
And, oh, I see. That's a volunteer. And you were up on a bridge, were you saying?
No, I'm actually on the path, looking down.
On the park, looking down.
Path up above. Yeah.
And you know what? For people who work as hard as I do for much less result, if you look at the upper portion, it looks blurred out, but I guess that's a reflection. I mean, this is the genius of people who really know how to take pictures, right? I mean, did you? I don't know. Can you tell me something about that? Is that the reflection?
That's just
blurred?
reflection and just movement of the water. That's.
But because it's like that, it highlights the
Yes.
people
Yeah.
who are wearing colored vests. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. Tell me 1 more minute. We're counting down together. What do we got? How many more pictures do we got? Let's go.
So here,
We sail
Linda
the
had to
ocean
get
blue.
out. This is the Bronx Zoo, as you can see. That's the
tram of the
train.
zoo.
Yeah. So she had to get out because the water was shallow, and she had to drag.
You know, what is just wonderful about your photography and great photography is, you know, you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute, what is that? And it just changes your vision of the whole thing. All right. How many more pictures do we got, folks?
A couple more.
Okay, 2 more? Let's do them real quick. I'll try not to say so much, but the work is so great. Here we go.
So again, the boat had to be taken out. The boat was put back into the water.
Right, that's the
and
zoo.
that's-
That is by the zoo.
That is by the zoo, and you can see the rapids. We didn't come over the rapids. And this is Linda's husband, John.
Unfortunately, there used to be problems with kids swimming in there. I
Yes.
hope that is not happening anymore. It's just too dangerous. We don't want to have
So
any
this
of our children get hurt.
This is just south of the Bronx Zoo.
There you go. Boy, what a great event. And so, by the way, it is happening May 18th is the day it's happening. Oh, my goodness, look at this photograph. How beautiful. Now, where underneath is this?
This is further down. Actually, I don't have
don't
the
remember?
information on which
For
one.
all
yeah.
we know, that's the Bruckner. I mean, right? It could be. Who knows? Who knows? Look at that photograph. And again, we talk about stereotype busting. You show people from out of town and say, oh, by the way, Bronx, New York.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
tremendous. Was that the last?
No, there's one
One
more, I
more.
think, which
Uno
is a little
mas.
more industrial.
All right. A little more industrial, did you say?
As you can see, yeah, there's
Oh,
the
because
concrete
here we
part.
are
yeah,
at
there you
Concrete
go.
Plant Park. And
Yeah.
that's where it ends.
Just south of that.
Just, oh my goodness. And again, this is what people would think of the Bronx, but wonderful.
Thank
Adi
you, sir.
Talwar.
Thank you.
And really what a great choice, because we had talked about he's going to bring all his fancy photos. The last time you were here, we did the studio photos. This was just lovely. And together we will invite people to look on the web May 18th for this year's, I think it's the 20th anniversary Bronx Flip
Yes,
Tour.
it is. And it's Bronx River Alliance. So,
Bronx River Alliance. Yes, yes, yes. We check all the boxes. Adi Talwar.
Thank you, sir.
Champion Bronx news photographer. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we're going to turn a Bronx state senator into a reporter. And he's going to report on what's been going on up in Albany. And there's been a lot going on. Don't go away.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self. And I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family?
This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything.
Oh, sorry. Go long, son!
it's always worth it.
Whoa, master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea. Tess from Vivo's Do It Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz, and we are thrilled because we're turning a state senator into a reporter. We've done it before with him. Senator Louis Sepúlveda from the 32nd Senatorial District. Nice to have you. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here right after the budget.
You came in to tell me that you hadn't gotten any sleep, and many of your colleagues who I've spoken to have said the same thing. This was a long haul, but before 11:59 and 59 seconds on March 31st, you got it done.
We got it done. Not everybody's happy, but you have some good stuff there. What this budget should exemplify to most people is how powerful the executive is in the state, and how a lot of what we do is controlled by the powers that the executive has.
For people who don't understand the language, we're talking about Governor Cuomo.
Yes. Well, not just Cuomo, but any governor now or in the future
right.
Has an enormous amount of power under the Constitution over the budget.
Is that the kind of thing that you and maybe even some of your colleagues would look at and say, you know what, maybe we ought to relook at how we handle this? I mean, the whole 3 men in the room, we've heard this, ad nauseum. I mean, is it time to look at that?
Well, my concern is not necessarily Cuomo, because even though there have been situations where people have questioned whether he's really a progressive, or the reality is that having him there would be better than having, let's say, if you have a conservative governor in the future, which is highly unlikely in New York State, but if you do, then that person can use the same powers in a detrimental manner to the communities that we represent. And so therein lies my concern about the power of the executive, of the governors.
I don't want to get into it, but I mean, we did have George Pataki for many years.
Yes,
you said,
yeah.
So you don't anticipate something like that happening again? As I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it was
But it's important. I think with fair redistricting that's coming up soon, and when we draw the lines appropriately, I think that the Republican Party is going to have a very difficult time in New York State. Certainly the Republican Party in the city is DOA. I mean, there's no denying. And I don't see how they should have more than 20 senators in the future. It just doesn't work out with the numbers.
Let's get into the budget itself. I guess the biggest headline would be congestion pricing. So I guess number one, how did you feel about it? And I know there was not unanimity about it across the board with Bronx electeds. I mean, there were yes and no. What are your thoughts with what we got?
Well, look, you're never going to get a perfect system. I get a little uncomfortable calling it congestive pricing. I think it's more of a revenue generator than anything else. Certainly, it'll help some level of congestion south of 60th Street. But, let's call it what it is. It's really mostly a fee generator, because we need it for the transit system in the state.
Right.
So most of the money will go to New York City, of course, because we have the largest mass transit system in the state. But a certain percentage goes upstate to Long Island Railroad and Metro North. So everyone gets a share. And I think the anticipated number is $14 billion that it'll generate.
A year?
A year, right. So that'll help certainly. It won't, by the way, it will not ensure that we don't have a rise in fees on the trains and tolls. But certainly without it, the rise would be greater.
It would be even greater.
So, yes.
You know what's interesting? We're going to be doing congestion pricing on Bronx Talk this coming Monday night. The AAA will be joining us. And without even talking to them, I know the response is basically you're taking drivers and you're asking them to fund mass transit. Again, still, same thing with the tolls on the bridges. Is that unfair? Is it kind of like, well, what else are we going to do?
I think it's I can't characterize it as fair and unfair. What I have to characterize is what's happening in the moment and what are alternatives that we have, and we have very few, if any, other alternatives. The reality is that when you have congestion in areas, it does create pollution. It does create all kinds of problems, carcinogens in the air, things like that. And it does decrease traffic, because in other states where you have similar systems, there has been a relatively significant drop in traffic.
So if you're going to complain, this would be the comeback. If you're going to complain, then get out of your car and take the train
Exactly.
or the bus.
Yeah, I mean, it'll slow down the congestion in your neighborhoods potentially. But it's not a perfect system. It's there are going to be some exceptions. If you drive on the FDR, end to end, you're not going to have to pay additional toll. But if you exit within the 60 or below, then obviously you'll pay the congestive toll.
And how is that? I'm just curious. How is that going to work? I guess there'll be things that will read your license plate when you cross a certain
Either that, or
spot.
it'll be some type of toll system like we have today.
Well, but most of the toll booths are gone. I mean,
Right, but they have those scanners that scan over your vehicle like they do in the GW. So they'll probably have that when you exit in the area that's congestive pricing area. Then it'll flag you, and you'll get a bill, or if you have an easy pass, you pay it. Yeah.
I guess for you, because you put it out in a release you put out, was the notion of eliminating cash bail. This has been a dialogue that has happened, and I have to tell you, I know there were many people, so-called progressives, I hate using labels, but it is true, who complained about the budget. But this was a big thing, and this was the kind of thing you weren't going to get if you didn't have a Democratic majority in the Senate. Do I have that right?
Oh, you're 100% right. And even with a Democratic majority, we still have to fine-tune it. That is one of the proud moments that I will remember as a member of the Democratic majority in the Senate this year.
For staying up all night?
Well, I mean, absolutely not. Sleep deprivation is something you remember. But the work that went in there, you had Northern interests, you had Long Island interests, people that absolutely were against a complete system with no cash bail, people that wanted to maintain the specific dangerousness that we had problems with in terms of giving the judge the opportunity to hold someone with bail based on dangerousness. Because the way that's always worked, it's that if you're black or Latino, they will deem you more dangerous than if you're a white person.
Well, I thought it was. Yeah. I thought bail was supposedly the likelihood to flee.
That's the original intent.
That's right.
That's absolutely right. The problem is
dangerousness.
And then people tend to forget that, and those that what about somebody who was arrested for killing someone? Well, that's not the notion of bail. It was essentially to make sure you return. So we got a very good compromise. No cash bail, except in certain very dangerous felonies or very violent misdemeanors. There'll be a system where you get released. The criminal justice system within the state and the city will have to implement the system, but you will have only cash bails in about 10 to 15% of people charged with crimes, and those are the violent ones.
If you walk down any block in the Bronx, I'm going to make an assumption, you will be able to look in the trees and see plastic bags. You will see them in garbage pails everywhere. You will see them floating in the Bronx River, which we just did a whole photo thing about. You will see plastic bags everywhere. There is a ban on plastic bags. And I have to say, while me, frankly, and other environmentalists love the idea of getting them out, but for people, especially on the lower end of the economic scale, charging 5 cents a bag, requiring other, whether you, I forget what the rules are, whether you carry a reusable bag. I mean, it always seems to be a regressive sort of situation. What is your thought on what we got here?
We have to change behavior, especially in the neighborhoods that I represent. I know there are people that it's an economic hardship to even give 5 cents, but you figure it out. To get a reusable bag, it can maybe spur an industry, reusable bag industry. But certainly you have to change behavior because a lot of this garbage is impacting our communities. And so let's change that because we have to worry about future generations. I think at the beginning it'll be somewhat onerous, but people will adjust and it'll change behavior.
How many years have you been an elected official? Prior to this, you were an assemblyman.
I was an assemblyman from 2000. I got elected in 2012.
Okay, so now we're coming on seven or 8 years.
We're coming on 7 years.
So it's not your first go around here.
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah.
So I'm looking for kind of a vision here of the changing nature of the Senate, the changing nature of Democratic politics across the country. You came out and supported Bernie Sanders unabashedly, despite your colleagues who are in districts right next to you. You didn't hesitate doing that. How do you view now? And even in the state level, there seems to be this going on between a further left wing and centrist Democrats, and then along with the vision, where do you fall? Because you're an established guy. Give me some of that. We want to know.
It's interesting.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I was once called a progressive, a liberal. I guess the older I get, the less progressive I think they think I am.
Or maybe the less progressive you are. I don't know.
I tell people with respect to myself, just look at my voter record. I voted for every possible piece of progressive legislation that we've had, and more so, even so, in the Assembly, because I was there longer. I don't necessarily think it's so much of an issue of progressive, liberal, and centrist and all. I think what you're seeing here is the education gap surfacing, right? Now you have younger people that are joining the party. And generally speaking, if you look at a lot of political movements in this country, either party, but especially the Democratic Party, a lot of the new changes in direction of the party were fomented by people in college, by young people. And you're seeing that now. Someone like Alexandria Ocasio is someone a young person who's changed it. You see some of the younger members in the New York State Senate.
Or your colleagues?
My colleagues, their ideology is a little more, if you want to call it progressive than some others. But I think at the end of the day, we're all true progressives, and sometimes, we have to work around some people that aren't.
I have to say, it strikes me as incredibly ironic as maybe the most progressive member of the House of Representatives over the last 20 years is Representative Jose Serrano from the Bronx. Yes. And before he announced that he wasn't going to run, he was being challenged by people saying he's not progressive enough. Okay. And I said, wait a minute, whether you like him or not like him, I think he's a good elected official, and certainly we both wish him well. Yeah. I just thought it was kind of funny saying, well, wait a minute, this guy's not progressive enough?
Well, I'll tell you my story. I am in favor of public financing of campaigns. Right. But I don't think the 6-to-1 platform, fair elections that the progressives are pushing
for. Yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
I didn't think it was the panacea. I don't think it's the panacea they think. I prefer democracy vouchers, when you say, here's an amount of money for you to invest in campaigns. You can give as much as you want to every candidate. It's the same thing. It comes from tax dollars, but you put spending caps on elections. So I'm going to give you $1,000.
Wait, you say you're going to give me as a general public?
Well, the state, the state or the city will give you the money based on tax revenues. They say, here's $1,000, Gary. You got 10 people running in your district. You can expend it however you want. You can give 20 to this guy.
Wait, you're going to give that money to whom?
To the taxpayer.
Wow.
Right,
and each taxpayer?
Each voting taxpayer.
Well, of course.
Yes. So then they will decide who they want to give their money to, but then you put a spending cap on the amount of money you can spend on an election.
So therefore
I think that's a better system, but because I didn't agree with them, I was being threatened with a challenger on the left. And we have a joke. I say, if you want to have a challenger on the left of me, you're going to have to go to Russia. So.
Which is 15 miles from Alaska. Anyway, Senator Louis Sepúlveda, thank you for playing reporter today in the Bronx Buzz. It's always a pleasure to have you. We never have enough time.
Yes.
But it's just great to have you, and appreciate
thank you so much.
Your staying up on our behalf.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Right. We will say goodnight. That is going to be the end of our program. And as I said, we will be back Monday night for Bronx Talk, and we will talk about congestion pricing. The AAA will be there. They'll have something to say. Good night.